Kick-off plans. Senator Lazarus, would you want to have a crack? Who's going to argue with you?
I want to talk yellow crazy ants. Is that the place to talk yellow crazy ants?
We've got enough people here to assist you, Senator.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
This is the place.
Yep. This is the place.
So you're obviously aware of the yellow crazy ant and the damage that it causes. I just would like to know where we're at with the yellow crazy ant, because I was up in Cairns a couple of weeks ago and I was told that it's quite an issue.
It is.
I just would like to know where we're at with that.
So I might just start. You're right, there is an ant issue up around Cairns. It is under management by the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries in Queensland, but with assistance from other jurisdictions, including the Commonwealth. We're quite supportive of a number of things that are being done up there that both manage things on the ground, like the local council doing some work around what gets dumped at tips and potting mixes and things like that. A really good sort of DVD, could almost be a TV infomercial if you like. But in the meantime, there's still a lot of work to do in Queensland about containing that problem. I might get Mr Thompson to continue.
Ian Thompson, First Assistant Secretary, Sustainability and Biosecurity Policy. We have been working with Queensland on yellow crazy ant. Most of that money was spent some years ago out of a previous program, Caring for Our Country, because it was an environmental pest in the main at that time. It was determined nationally that it wasn't a pest that would be cost shared in the formal way that some other ants, and we've also fighting red imported fire ant and electric ant, yellow crazy ant, which has been in the country for some time and on Christmas Island for even longer, is being managed at the present time by the Queensland Government. And from time to time we've put money in, as I said, under previous programs. I think there was 2.2 million up until 2013, 4 million in the far north Queensland area, and then a lot of money on Christmas Island.
I understand that currently the Commonwealth supports the program with a $1.9 million per annum, but it seems the funding hasn't been established or is not available in 2016. Can you update me on that?
I'd have to take that on notice, Senator. As I said, our program in the past was part of Caring for Our Country, a program that we were involved in, and yes, there was 1.9 million provided to the Wet Tropics Management Authority for crazy ant eradication in the wet tropics area, but that program, that targeted grant ceased in 2013-14. But if you wanted to pursue that in more detail, it would be appropriate to ask the Environment Department.
Okay. Could you explain to me how they became or how they got into North Queensland?
Senator, I'd only be conjecturing, but they're one of many ants I mentioned. We look at red imported fire ant and electric ant and jumping ants. They're a broad category of ants called tramp ants. They're very small and they secrete themselves in bits of soil, in cracks in containers, in little bits of clay left on the bottom of things, or they get inside cracks in all sorts of material or machinery coming into the country. They are inspected at the border, and there are commitments made by companies importing material that they're free of these things, but they're very small, very cryptic, and I think they're known as tramp ants for good reason. Okay. So they came in on something, presumably.
Right. So do you think we should be improving our inspections?
Senator, I couldn't comment on that. That would have to be for somebody else. But as I said, they're very difficult to see and identify. It is part of our inspection regime to look for them.
I might just add to that, Senator, that in addition to inspecting them, and they are hard to see and hard to find, We have just reinvigorated what we call a national port surveillance strategy. So inspecting them is one step, and we do have all sorts of different kinds of inspections and fumigations and cleaning processes, etc. But Ms Hinder can just outline quickly, after a finding of red imported fire ants is in Port Botany about 12 months ago, and we can tell with our specialists how long a colony has been there. We've just initiated a new, and I think Senator Siewert asked me questions about this last estimate, initiated a new surveillance strategy around ports to see what we're finding that you might miss with the naked eye on inspection. Ms Hinder, you might just want to add?
Certainly. Nicola Hinder, Assistant Secretary of the Pathway Compliance. As Ms Mellor said, there's certainly a range of inspections that we undertake for the types of commodities that we believe these types of tramp ants, or indeed any of the hitchhiking pests, might come into the country on. So they're what we call our immediate response activities to verify that the commodities that we look at are free from those materials. In addition to that, we also undertake some targeted surveillance activities around areas where we believe that these pests might be able to settle if they've come in on a piece of cargo or another form of container or commodity that's come through. In the last couple of months, what we've done, Senator, is have a look at the type of surveillance that we undertake in these types of regions to be able to determine whether or not we need to either dial our efforts up to look for certain priority pests that are there, and also having a look as to whether or not we need to undertake more location-specific type surveillance. That at the moment is ongoing, and it's very much a work in progress. And so in consultation with our colleagues in both the Plant Division and the Animal Division, we will be looking to expand that within the next couple of months to the year, and that will also take into account activities that the states themselves do to conduct surveillance to be able to determine if there is any evidence of any high priority or high profile pests and diseases present.
How are we going with the fire ant issue? Because it's fairly rampant in Queensland.
Is that the Queensland one?
Yeah.
So
the
again,
problem overall, I don't mind.
It's a huge problem. So our role in the Commonwealth is as a funding partner. All of the work that's done in that area that's affected by red imported fire ants is done by the Queensland Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries in Queensland. We contribute about 15 million a year, or
Yes.
7.5 a year. They've done some fairly unique things in Queensland around surveillance themselves, so using infrared aerial surveillance to identify nests, using different kinds of chemicals to kill the ants, and I think quite a lot of work on the ground with householders. These things move usually what we call mechanically, so landscapers, dirt movers, road builders, etc. So quite a lot of work with industry on the ground as well. At the moment, the effort is to contain it within a geographical area.
Okay, so based on that, we haven't eradicated the fire ant problem.
No.
So would you agree that if we absolutely saturated the yellow crazy ant, as in with more funding and really get on top of it rather than just containing it, that we could eventually eradicate the problem?
It's not as simple as could you throw everything at it. You actually have to look at how what's going on in the area. And of course, as I said, one of the things that we know is that a lot of the crazy ant movement, or the yellow crazy ants, was actually through the movement of pot plants and potting mix and things like that. And so you've got to start with community education about the risk. You can throw lots of dollars at things and still not get it. And so we use scientists who actually work out the behaviour of the organism itself and the behaviour of people in the area to see what the chances are. With red imported fire ants, all governments are continuing at the moment to commit to eradication, and the science would show that over the long term possible. Not sure that it's exactly the same in Cairns with the yellow crazy ant issue.
Our understanding of the yellow crazy ant is it tends to be its main impact is on horticulture and the environment, so it's actually more difficult to find because it's not around urban areas with red imported fire ant. If a new nest appears, somebody tells us about it usually, so we can involve the community. Involving the community has been harder in the Cairns case because of its locations. My understanding is it's in more rural areas. So, as Ms Mellor says, throwing a whole lot of resources at it doesn't necessarily mean finding all the sites.
It would help though, wouldn't it? It would definitely help.
More money would certainly help, yes.
And you are agreeing with me that this is an issue. This is a serious issue in North Queensland in particular.
Yes, the impact of all of these ants on sort of our outdoor lifestyle, in some cases on biodiversity, small ants, reptiles and these sorts of things can be significant.
Well, my understanding is that they actually spit at the livestock's eyes and things like that. And when this sounds like a nasty little bugger. I hope that by you saying that you are taking this very seriously, that we can eradicate this thing. Can I just? Do you deal with cases of TB in this area here?
I'm sorry.
Tuberculosis. Animal. Do you deal with that?
Tuberculosis?
Yeah.
We just let the animal people go, sorry.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
that was them.
so-
Sorry, that's
sorry.
okay. That's okay. Can someone give me an update on the banana freckle,
Yes, we can do that.
please?
Good afternoon, Senator. Kim Rittman, Chief Plant Protection Officer. So I have some latest stats on the eradication this is in Northern Territory with banana freckle. So the Northern Territory government is undertaking the eradication. So there's quite a few properties they've got to go through. So there's 4,500 properties that potentially have bananas. They've got 84 left. These are the particularly difficult ones that either people are obstructing them coming on to their properties, or in the case of some, they're overseas. But a lot of those overseas ones that they can't contact have been taken out. So you would have noticed in the media that the police are going to be involved in helping the inspectors get on board. The Darwin Banana Farm is a commercial operation, has had all of its bananas removed. They were slightly delayed. They had a problem with weather and their tractor caught fire, but they've now eradicated that. And that includes some genetically modified bananas that were on the property and part of an experiment. Now, there's tissue culture for those experiments in Australia at Queensland University, but also some were sent overseas prior to their destruction. So the idea is to remove all banana plants within the red zone, and I won't go through all those areas, but you remove them all in this first year, and then the next phase is a host-free period of at least 6 months that has to include a wet season. So we've got till the next wet season when that starts. So they're on track to have all of the bananas
And has it been contained to Northern Territory, or?
Yes.
It has.
Yes.
So there's no cases in Queensland.
Nope.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah.
I'll stop there, Chair.